Hey everyone, I'm back with another devlog for my combat helicopter game. I've been hard at work cleaning up a bunch of the code and organizing the project better. Of course, in the process of doing that, I ended up breaking a bunch of stuff. I ended up having to rewrite some of it, but hopefully for the better this time. And at the end of the video, I think I'm going to show a little bit of the code that I've been writing to make this magic happen. I do have some actual fun stuff to show you, so let's get into it. So the first thing is I kind of like revamped the Freelook camera. I do still have a little bit of work to do. I revamped how the code worked and I'm fairly happy with it. You can just hold down Alt if you're the pilot and look around the cockpit. Of course, the gunner can just look around without holding Alt. The gunner is essentially in Freelook all the time. Another kind of fun thing is when you are flying and you are kind of like wanting to free look around, but you maybe want to keep your eye on one particular spot, you can actually like set a little waypoint thing with a right click, and then when you let go, I'm not like moving the mouse at all. I'm actually just flying by this point right here. It basically will track that point right there, which is really cool. Like you can actually see the point, and then if I right click again, it goes back to like the pilot forward view as normal. And then if I turn around here and right click again, it will find that point again. So it's just a really handy way to track targets. Like I said, if you're in free look mode, you can move it, find new targets, right click, it kind of just sets that little donut right there. And yeah, then I of course can switch back to this view if I want to look forward. So that's pretty fun, and I think that's working pretty well. I probably have some more tweaking to do to make it really feel good, but it already feels so much better to fly and kind of like track targets. In fact, let's go over here to these static meshes over here. Let me fly that direction. We're over here by a collection of random things, and if I target this thing, now it's kind of fun because as you can see, I can fly by it, and it will stay more or less locked where I right clicked, and so I can kind of keep that point in view. Very, very helpful and handy feature that I'm going to be using to great effect. Probably the coolest part of this update is this is not just a flight simulator. It is a combat flight simulator, and you now have the ability to fire the gun. It fires bullets. If I come back in and aim off to the side here, you can see that not only can you fire bullets, but they also explode and leave a little smoke at the site there. I made this little emission thing where it kind of sparkles and explodes. I'll probably work on those and make them look even cooler. So you can fire the 30 millimeter chain gun, and you can see explosions happening. So I'm going to strafe this tank right here. I don't have it exploding yet. Maybe that'll be a future update, but you can see that I'm firing at it as I go by. We're not just here to fly around, we're here to fight. And so that makes it a lot more fun to just play. I don't know. I'm just enjoying like flying around and hammering away at stuff here. I'm not very good yet. Obviously, I have a lot to learn about my own game. Super, super fun. You will eventually run out of ammunition. It carries about 1,200 rounds right now, and it fires at about the rate that the Apache does. I mean, I went and looked at some YouTube videos and kind of figured out how fast that they tend to fire. I also added a particle emitter for the chain gun where now that smoke doesn't look right, but it actually drops like shell casings, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and there's some tweaking to do, of course. It looks like it's firing off to the left a little bit here, so I'm going to need to play with that a little bit and get that to work right. But in general, yeah, pretty happy with it. It's pretty fun. I also added kind of an auto hover. It's not perfect, but like here, if I let go, if you're looking at the altimeter on the right, you can see that it's trying to stay around the altitude that I'm at. And of course, if I go forward, it will start dropping. But if you have enough altitude, it'll try to bring it back to more or less flying at the altitude you are. You still have to watch it. It's not like perfect. You don't just dive forward. You'll dive right into the ground. I find that you don't even really notice it. It just is sitting there like helping you keep the collective at the level that you need to fly. Not only did I adjust the auto hover, I did some more tweaking of the flight characteristics. And I would say that generally speaking, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Like, it does some dampening when you get closer to the hover state so that you're not constantly like chasing the ball around. This is kind of an unintended consequence, but if I right click, it actually turns the gun between tracking mode and not tracking mode. And I think I'll keep that when you're in the external view. Still really cool to see it like do this and then start firing. That is such a cool shot. It doesn't take into account range right now, so when it's firing, it's not going to quite make it all the way to those things over there. I think I could probably implement some sort of range solution here where it would do a better job of that, but not right now. Okay, I promised I would show you some code, and some code I will show you. This is the helicopter script. It does a whole lot of stuff. For example, it does some setup. When the helicopter is spawned in, it does some multiplayer synchronization. I have some code in here that handles air resistance. There's this thing I call lazy process. Instead of running every frame, which could be 60 a second, this one only runs 10 times a second. It's for like less critical things like calculating how fast are we going, what's our altitude, what's our heading, updating the cannon rotation as well. All of those things happen at a slower speed. I added this thing called radar altimeter. It has this ray casting thing that'll shoot down toward the terrain and tell you how high you are off the terrain. Works pretty well. It's pretty accurate. I have a little bit of tweaking. I noticed when I was sitting on the ground, it was telling me 2 feet. So I probably need to adjust the node down a little bit, but it's pretty close. I made this thing called a weapon controller that's going to be handling different weapons. Right now I only have one, which is this cannon controller. It inherits from weapon controller. That's one of the things you can do with Godot, and Godot script is classical inheritance. And so it gets all the attributes and everything of the weapon controller and adds on its own firing and different scenes so that you can compose together the behavior that you want from this particular weapon. I also added this thing called a pilot seat, which actually used to be the pilot camera. The pilot camera is now attached to it. The pilot seat handles like controlling the helicopter and input and looking around and transforming where you are in the seat. I also added this kind of cool thing, muffling the sounds when you're inside and outside of the aircraft. Pretty cool. There's a lot more code than this. This is just the stuff I've been working on a little bit more recently. And of course, I've been working on a lot of the particle stuff as well. That's it for today. There's plenty more to come. And so make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, turn on all notifications so you don't miss my next devlog. And once again, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.